Hey guys, Martin here. I just got back from Tennessee. I went to this convention. I mentioned it in the last one. It's Middle Tennessee Anime Convention, or MTAC. And it's one of my favorite conventions, honestly. I definitely rank it in my top five at the very least. I've been there twice, and both times the people and the staff have been so bloody hospitable. I guess it's that southern charm they've got going on, but everyone was super nice. I was really blown away. I always am when I go down there, and I've been to Tennessee several times, but MTAC I've only been to twice. But the people there are like some of the best people in the world, if you ask me. I'm really, really blessed to have been able to get down there and meet them and talk to them. And a lot of them talked to me about we're still here and how it's been helping them, or how they've been, trying to keep up with it and trying to better themselves, not necessarily as a result of the videos, but because they felt they needed to. And it's been really, I have to keep reminding everybody that I'm not doing this because I think I can save everybody from depression. I'm doing this because it really sucks to be stuck with that. And at the least, what I want to do is help you to recognize that there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with, that you have a sickness in you. You have something within you that is wrong, but it's not you. The most I want to do with these videos is to hopefully make you realize that you are capable of picking yourself up and getting out of this situation. And I'm not claiming to be, like I always put in the description, I'm not a trained psychologist or therapist. I'm a guy who has been suffering through this, and I just know from my experience that talking about it helps, and hearing about it helps. And talking to you guys in person and hearing your stories helps me, and doing this helps me. So it's a two-way street. I don't want you to ever forget that. I don't want you to ever forget that this isn't just something I'm doing because I think you need help. Everybody needs help. And sometimes that comes from within, and sometimes it comes from without. And part of me doesn't feel right when people come up to me and say, thank you so much for doing this, because I should be thanking you for one. And also, never forget that if these videos have helped you realize that you are capable of getting better, and that you will get better, and that you can go see a therapist, or do anything it takes to resolve this and become the person you used to be, or that you want to be, that's you doing that. I didn't do that for you. You don't owe me any thanks whatsoever. I want you to understand that. I want you to appreciate that about yourself, because you are incredible. I had this girl come up to me crying and saying that these videos helped her, and I had to hold on to her for like 2 minutes, telling her, no, this is you doing this. The videos are just reminding you about how strong you are. You're the one who is able to fix the problem. And it is a problem. It's just, for some people it's worse than others. But if you can confront it, you are remarkable and very brave. I've met so many remarkably brave people this past weekend, and it's emotional, and I don't know how else to say it, but thank you. Thank you for not giving up. So yeah, I just didn't want to go through this video without telling everybody who's watching that applies to all of you. You're all strong people. You're all brave people. And you're all worthy of life and happiness and all the things that depression has taken from you and can continue to take from you. You can take it back. We can all take it back, and we're gonna do that. And no matter how long it takes, We'll get it back. Anyway, without further ado, here's something that makes me really happy. I'm a huge fan of the Walt Disney movie, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's funny, in America, a lot of people say Notre Dame, I've noticed, and I always cringe when I hear that, and I'm glad that people have started gravitating towards Notre Dame, even though technically that's not the correct pronunciation. It's very pretentious of me. It's Notre Dame, or whatever. I don't know. My French accent's terrible, but not Notre Dame. But I'm a huge fan of that movie. I think it's visually perfect. If any Disney movie is visually as good as they can get, I think Hunchback nails it. It's incredible. It's a feast for the eyes, like no other movie. And the music, of course, is, you probably know this if you've seen it, phenomenal. And there's a few moments here and there that bring it down. But if you haven't seen the movie, or even if you don't know the story, I'll explain it. The story is about the titular Hunchback of Notre Dame, Quasimodo, whose name means like half-formed, I believe. And he's raised by the Minister of Justice, Frollo, who is the villain of the piece. He's a great villain in the movie, played incredibly by the late, great Tony Jay, who the character raises Quasi because he feels that it's a test from God to take something that is like a monster on the outside and turn it into something in his own image. And he raises him in the bell tower of Notre Dame, the cathedral, and Quasi spends his whole life up there ringing the bells, and then he longs to be, part of the outside world, but he isn't allowed to leave. And Frollo basically teaches him, the tenets of, religion and, his own moral code. And Quasimodo ultimately goes down into the city of Paris one time during the Festival of Fools, and he meets Esmeralda, the gypsy dancing girl, who is beautiful and immediately falls in love with her. To cut a long story short, Quasimodo obviously ends up defying Frollo. Esmeralda, he's basically fawning over Esmeralda, who is on the run from Frollo because Frollo is in lust with her and wants to have her for his own. And there's also Captain Phoebus. He's the captain of the guard, who is also quite taken by Esmeralda, and they end up together. And not to spoil the ending too much, but basically Frollo gets his comeuppance. Phoebus and Esmeralda end up together, and at the end of the Disney version of the movie, which is very different from the original story in a lot of regards, Quasi leaves the cathedral and gets to live in the outside world, and everybody loves him for who he is. It's not quite how the original story ended or went in general, but it's still a great movie. There are, like I said, a few things that bring it down from being a perfect movie, but despite that, it's still tremendous in a lot of regards. Musically, visually, I think some of the acting's amazing. Like Tony Jay's performance is worth watching the movie alone. The one huge flaw with the movie, which I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me, is that there are these gargoyle characters, which are like the goofy sidekick guys. Like they're there to provide levity in a story that probably shouldn't have too much of that. They're there to sort of make the children who've gone to see this movie about a very corrupt man basically trying to kidnap an innocent woman and have his way with her, while Quasimodo, mourns for the fact that he can't go outside. It's a very dark story, but they tried to brighten it up by having these gargoyles, these three gargoyles who are very goofy and, who have a lot of very silly banter. And, if they were in any other movie, they might be tolerable. But in this movie, they are not so much. They're really frustrating, and I really can't stand them. And unfortunately, they get their own musical number, and they interrupt a lot of the dramatic moments. They're in the movie for a good, like, 20 minutes at least, and it's 20 minutes that really it could just be cut out of the film, and it would be improved drastically. But yeah, I love the Hunchback movie. I think it's fantastic. It's one of my favorites. It could be my favorite, aside from The Lion King, which really is hard to deny is Disney's best work. But Hunchback, yeah, definitely way up there. And Marianne, my wife, and I love the movie, especially the music. And we heard that the La Jolla Playhouse up north was going to be staging a production of a live stage musical of the movie. And we were like, wait, what? Really? There's a stage musical of this? I had no idea. And we went to see it without really having any preconceptions about it. We just hoped that it was the movie only adapted into a musical. We didn't know how thoroughly it would be adapted, anything that would be, if there would be any changes made to it, or, how the story would hold up. And we got there, and, we thought it was on a school campus, but it was still, it was a very lavish stage, very, very awesome setup. It's like, it looks like you're in a church, because obviously the cathedral is a centerpiece of the story. And they've got pews, and they've got like a beautiful stained glass window backdrop, and it looked great. And we didn't quite know what to expect. We didn't know if it was going to be an amateur production. We didn't know how long the stage show had been going. And we sat down, and we expected to have a decent musical experience. I love musicals. I would say that I would rather watch a musical than any other kind of movie or any other kind of show any day. I love musicals. I don't know what it is. I get a thrill out of watching them. And I was very excited because Hunchback is one of my favorite movies. And, even if it was a decent performance, a decent production, we were going to have a good time because we just knew that the songs were good. And we sat down, and I'll tell you what, it is easily the best musical I've ever seen. I know I sound like I'm exaggerating, but it was phenomenal. It was amazing. I don't know how to put it into words except to tell you that if you're a fan of the Hunchback of Notre Dame story, or the movie, or any form of that tale, please, if you get chance, go see the musical. I know it's not playing on Broadway, or it doesn't have like a major release yet. But when we went to see it, it blew us away. I don't know what to tell you. Like, Alan Menken actually sat down and wrote a ton of new songs for the stage version, and restructured a lot of stuff to the point that it's more accurate to the original novel, and it fleshes out the characters. Frollo, the musical starts off with Frollo, who in the movie is a great character, kind of a stereotype, but painted with very broad strokes, but you kind of have to be in those movies. But in the stage show, he gets a whole prologue, and it tells you his backstory and his history with his brother, and you learn why he feels indebted to raise Quasimodo and fix the mistakes that he's made. And it makes him a very three-dimensional character that he wasn't in the movie. It wasn't that he was a bad character, just he didn't have that aspect to him. And in the musical, oh my God, he's played brilliantly by Patrick Page in the version we saw. And it's like seeing Tony Jay come back to life and perform through him, because he nailed it. His voice was perfect for the character. He did an incredible singing performance, and he just brought everything about that guy to life and made you enthralled by it. Not only did they do that, but they made Phoebus a much more interesting character. In the movie, he's sort of just, goody two-shoes, but in the stage show, much like in the story, he's a bit of a womanizer and kind of an ass. But and then Esmeralda is Esmeralda, and the cast is almost flawless. and they took out the gargoyles. That's the thing, the main thing that made me really happy when I was watching it. Was like, oh, they took the gargoyles out. And when I say they took them out, I don't mean they completely excised them from the story, but instead of the gargoyles being these goofy characters, the cathedral itself is a character, and it talks to Quasimodo, and he sings to it and has conversations with it. Not just the statues, but the windows, the bells. Everything has a voice, and it's the chorus of the musical. It's so creative and ingenious, and it feels so obvious having watched it. But it makes me so happy just thinking about it, because I love the movie and I love the story, but seeing it made even greater than it was for me in the animated version and perfected. They basically took what was already great and made it perfect. They took the gargoyles and they changed them into the chorus, and they added so many great new songs. There's some really phenomenal, I keep saying phenomenal, but it really, really is so good. I haven't seen anything like it, and I really hope that, that it gets picked up and taken to Broadway and tours all over the country, because it turned out that the version we saw in La Jolla was actually the first American run of the musical. So we saw the original cast performing, and we loved it so much that this past weekend we actually flew over to New Jersey to go watch it with a friend of ours, Katie. I actually mentioned her in 2 episodes ago. I don't know if you can hear it, but Mozzarella's crying in the background. Yes. I'm not going to let her distract me right now, though. She'll be all right. She's just whining. But yeah, it was so good. Both times it was incredible. I couldn't believe it. Like, there's so much going on, and they nailed it. Whenever you look at something and you've been waiting for an adaptation to come out for a long time, and you're worried that it's going to be a disappointment or that they're going to mess something up, but they nailed it. It's so good. And it has a very dark ending compared to the original movie, the animated movie. They I don't want to say too much, because if you do care about the story, and it is a bit of a spoiler, obviously the story's been around for around a century, but it's, instead of Quasimodo just watching Frollo fall and just letting it happen, Quasimodo picks him up and throws him out of the cathedral and kills him. And it's so good. And there's even more that happens that's very true to the story, and I can't say too much, because if you are going to see it, I want it to have the same emotional impact that it had to me and to everybody in the theater, because everybody was crying at the end. It's so devastating and real, and the final sequence is so beautiful, because every character in this show basically paints their face like Quasi's and disfigures themselves and stands there on stage, and he's the only one at the end of the play without a disfigurement. And there's a great message there, and they have the whole what makes a monster and what makes a man message, and I could go on for ages. And everybody was so great. Quasimodo was perfect. He had the physicality of the character down, the way he would run across the stage like an animal. He didn't walk like a human being. It was, and he was, his voice was beautiful, but again, true to the story, in the musical, Mozzarella is crying like crazy. I'm going to let her in because she's just going to keep meowing. But yeah, as I was saying, they made Quasimodo deaf, like in the original story. He's deaf because the bells are so loud, and when he's ringing them, he's right next to them, so he's deaf. I mean, he can hear a little bit, but he does sign language, and his voice is so hoarse, and he sounds like he's struggling to speak, but there's a beautiful quality to it. And when he sings, he alternates sometimes between that voice and this beautiful natural singing voice, which is what he's hearing in his head. And oh my God, it's so perfect. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a perfect musical. It's the perfect story for a musical. It's the perfect music, the perfect songs. The cast was perfect. If you love good musicals, or if you love the Hunchback story, please somehow see this it's amazing. I want to go see it again somehow. I would pay any money to see it again. It's brilliant. They nailed it. And thank you to everyone involved, the cast and crew. I'm sure they'll never watch this video, but holy cow, it had an impact on me and Marianne. It's her favorite musical now too, and she's a much bigger music snub than I am. So trust me, it's incredible. It's an experience unlike anything. Oh my God, it was good. I'm laughing because I'm just so happy that I've seen it, you know? But yeah, it's worth looking out for if you can. And it's only just started playing, but obviously it's a bit of an independent production right now, but hopefully somebody picks it up and turns it into the big production that it deserves to be, because it deserves a lot of attention. And hopefully at some point you do get the chance to see it, because trust me, you need to. If you like anything that's good, because it is very good. Oh my God, it was good. I tried talking about this last time, actually. I've wanted to talk about this since the beginning, actually. I wanted to open up about how it feels, at least on my part, to be suicidal. Because obviously that is the worst aspect of being depressed. To want your life to end. To want to end your life. To want that's the part that's insane. It doesn't make any sense to want that. And you do want that sometimes. A lot of the time, in my part, I tried talking about this last week, like I said, and I was kind of on a schedule. I had like an hour or so to record, and I was trying to be like, yeah, suicide, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't feel real. It didn't feel like it was coming from me. It felt like I was just describing something that happened to somebody else. But I want to make it clear that this is something that's I've dealt with and that I'm dealing with. I don't feel it as much or as strongly as I used to, but I feel it, and I felt it for a long time. I guess the first time I started feeling suicidal was I think July, August last year. And it was so pervasive that I would just, I have this thing where I will say a phrase unconsciously without thinking about it. It'd be something that, you know, it's on my mind, or something that, you know, it's just a phrase that's stuck in my head. And sometimes I won't mean what I'm saying, but a lot of the time I'll feel what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I'll at random intervals, I will blurt this out when I'm on my own and nobody's around, or sometimes when I'm just going from room to room, I'll just say these things. And I do apologize in advance about the lighting here. I understand that it's probably very distracting, and I wish I had a better option. I've just got the natural light of my window to deal with. So I'm sorry if it looks like I'm in half darkness and half light. But yeah, like I was saying, I have this phrase that I would say. It would change sporadically, but for a good several months, the phrase just became, "I'm going to kill myself." And it felt real every time I would say it. It felt like a certainty. It felt like something. It felt like a thought had just taken shape, or an impulse, and it was just reminding me that it was there. It was like, "Hey, remember me?" And I would just say it, like I'd be driving somewhere and I'd say, "I'm going to kill myself." And I'd look at myself in the rearview mirror and I'd say, "Yeah, I'm going to kill myself." And there would be the temptation to drive off the road and just crash and hope that I didn't survive. And that's almost the worst part of it, is because you're like, I would do that if I knew I wouldn't survive. I don't know whether to stop this or not. You see, when you're suicidal, for me at least, it was constant. It was always in the back of my mind. I would walk into a room and I'd look around and I'd say, how would I kill myself in this situation? And I would look for items and I'd say, what would I use? And I'd look at, and I'd think, what kind of mess would I make? How would I deal with it? I know that there was part of me that would be like, well, I don't want to do that because it'll cause too much of a mess, and my wife will have to pay to clean it up. Because that's all I cared about, was the aftermath in that regard, was that I was going to leave a mess behind. I'm going to take these off. It's not that was all I cared about. I care about my family, and I care about Marianne. But I didn't care about me. And that's how it started. I just didn't care about me. I've not cared about myself for a long time. And I guess that was the kernel of thought that blossomed into these thoughts of wanting just to end my life. And it just became worse and worse. And I tried telling myself... In fact, I didn't try telling myself anything. I tried not to tell myself anything. I've talked about it briefly in videos before in this series. I think in the first one at the very least, or maybe even the first two. But as a result of being suicidal, I stopped caring. I stopped caring about a lot of things. I stopped caring about what would happen to me. I stopped caring about my health. I stopped caring about my work schedule. As an actor, it was... It sounds pretentious as hell. It sounds like a first world problem, but as an actor, it was crippling, because I would get auditions and I'd say, well, I'm going to kill myself, so what's the point in auditioning for things? As a person, I just wouldn't go out of my way to talk to people. I wouldn't go out of my way to maintain friendships with people, because I didn't think there was any point. I tried intentionally to distance myself from people, because I knew if they were too close to me and I killed myself, that would just hurt them more. I might as well save people the pain. My predominant, and obviously I'm going to go into a bit of detail here, so if this is the sort of thing that will upset you, then definitely then maybe skip ahead for the next 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or just stop watching altogether if it's too much risk of being triggered, because I would understand that. The predominant way in which I wanted to kill myself was to, lie in a bath and slit my wrists, or overdose on pills. And there were days when I would just go into the bathroom and take painkillers and start doing it more and more. And I didn't know what the result would be. I mean, I'm not telling you that I was trying to kill myself. I'm telling you that I didn't care what it would do. And if it would kill myself, then, hey, that will be a nice surprise. I'd go in there and I'd take 3, I'd take 4. Some days I'd take 5, 6. And I'm sure some of you are like, well, that's nowhere near enough to kill yourself, but I don't know. I just wanted to do something. I just wanted to hurt myself somehow. And I just kept this within me. And I fed that feeling. I gave it a control over me. I stopped trying to live. I stopped trying to have hopes. And I didn't have a long-term future in mind, because in my mind there was none. And as far as I knew, the story of my life just ended within the next 5, maybe 6 months. I would tell myself, yeah, by the time the year's out, I'll be dead. So what is the point of trying anything? even when I started to recover from it, even when I stopped having these feelings as much, and, I still had them a little bit, and I'd been going to therapy and I'd been dealing with it, and medication certainly helped quiet those feelings. I tried to watch a film called The Skeleton Twins, and I got 5 minutes into it, and the first... I don't know what you know about the movie, and I still haven't watched the movie, so I don't really know what it's about, but it starts off with two people trying to kill themselves, and I had no idea that it would be as graphic as it was, and it's not that graphic, actually, but it's graphic enough, and the two ways they try and kill themselves is one of them lies in a bath and slits their wrists, and the other one tries to overdose on pills. And I'm like, that is just like watching the two things that I've been fantasizing about the last 6 months come into actuality and happen, and I get to see people dealing with that, and I can't cope with that, and so I just started hyperventilating, and I fell down, and I turned the movie off, and I just cried for like 20 minutes, because that's what it did to me. It made me want that. And if you're dealing with that, it's awful. I don't know what to tell you. I want to be able to tell you that that it's not real, but it's a real feeling. And I definitely want to tell you that it's not going to happen, but I can't make that kind of promise. But I want to promise you that it doesn't have to happen, and you have a control over it. You can take its power away. You can find help. People want to help you. I want you to get help. I don't want you to feel that way. Nobody should feel that way. And I don't care if you're my worst enemy, you don't deserve that. My life has been an incredible story, and if I had ended it with that, it would have cast a shadow on everything, and it would have turned everyone else's story into a nightmare, and it would have been the worst thing possible. So don't let those thoughts control you. Don't let those thoughts dictate your life, because they aren't really part of you. They're a result of something awful that's happening to you. But things will turn around, and good things can happen, and you can have hope, and you can have dreams, and you can have a good life with friends and with people who love you. It might not be happening now, but it can happen, and the chance for it to happen is worth living for. It's worth living for, and it's worth living to see what happens, and not to give up. I don't want you to give up. I'm not going to give up. You don't have to give up. Listen, I just want you to know that it's something you can get over. You can recover from it, and you are worth the effort it takes to fight it. So thank you for listening to me. And I'll probably have more to say on this subject in the future, but right now this is all I can do. So thank you for listening to that. I'm gonna wrap up that part of the video because I can't keep going right now, but I'm very proud of you for listening at the very least. I'm very proud of you for a lot of things, and for making it 13 weeks into this I mean, even if you just started watching, I'm proud of you for spending a day watching this stuff. And I'm proud of you for making it through the day and not giving up and being all right. I'm proud of you. All right. Thank you. Turning the camera this way because that was not good lighting, and I'm sure you're going to watch the video and be like, oh my god, this is terrible. I can't even watch this just because of the way it looks. So I apologize for that, but I wasn't in the mood to really adjust things. Yeah, I had a good weekend, and I hope you did. This has been difficult for me. And it's been something I've definitely been delaying, and I've been putting it off, talking about the suicide stuff. And I guess it might have been a little too early, I don't know, but it's something that people talked to me about this weekend, and I didn't want to put it off any longer if I could help it, and I'll probably come back to the subject because it was a big part of my depression. But anyway, yeah, on a more positive note, I have 2 or 3 weeks of staying at home and working on videos, so I'm not gonna take that for granted. I'm gonna just sit and work for the most part. And my anniversary of first getting together with Mariana is coming up soon as well, and I'm looking forward to celebrating that. So yeah, there are reasons to be happy. There are a lot of reasons to be happy. And I hope you have a lot of reasons to be happy as well. And if you don't, they'll come. And if I did meet you this past weekend, because a lot of you talked to me about We're Still Here, and some of you just said thank you, and that means the world to me, and some of you opened up to me and talked about your problems you were going through, and that means more than you can know. And if you're one of those people, I want you to know that I'm going to keep doing these videos, and I want to thank you for sticking with them and being as strong as you are. It's been a difficult episode, and I hope it's not been too difficult for you to watch, but sometimes these things are, but they're not impossible. It's not impossible to get past this stuff. You can beat this depression, or just this negative feeling that you have, or just this shitty situation you might be in. Even if it's nowhere near as serious as others might be, it doesn't matter. Everything's relative. If you feel like crap, you feel like crap. And you don't deserve that. So let's pick ourselves up. And let's start over. Start the day over. And let's have a good time. Let's put a smile on our face. Let's do our best to do that. I'm gonna go watch a movie or something. I don't know. I'm gonna try and cheer myself up. Thank you for watching.